it's Danielle Fishel.
Ryder Strong.
And Will Friedle from Pod Meets World.
Does friendly have a taste? If it does, it's probably like Hello's peppermint-flavored anti-plaque and whitening toothpaste.
Brush away plaque, show tartar who's boss, and remove surface stains to naturally whiten.
Hello's thoughtful and flavor-forward products make brushing your teeth feel like a confetti-filled bathroom dance party.
So say hello to Hello with the always cruelty-free, never tested on animals toothpaste that's made to spread smiles.
Visit HelloProducts.com and let Hello add some everyday yay into your life.
Ah, DSW, birthplace of the humble brag. Here, the shoes are so good, no one would ever know how little you paid. If you didn't go telling everyone, that is. And with never-ending options for every style, mood, and occasion, all at really great prices, we'll definitely give you something to brag about. So go ahead, stock up on fresh sneakers from your favorite brands, or try those boots you always secretly knew you could pull off. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or at DSW.com. Let us surprise you.
Okay, relax, Doc. It's me. It's Martin.
No, it can't be. Just sent you back to the future.
Yeah. Oh, I know you did send me back to the future, but I'm back. I'm back from the future.
Great.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
The way I see it, if you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
Thanks so much for taking the time, man. I really enjoyed this movie. It's great to talk to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hey, you know, I don't know if you recall this or not, but it was maybe a little over a year ago. You were here in Houston for Comic Palooza, and I got to moderate a panel for Napoleon Dynamite with you and Efren. And I remember being backstage, and the one thing I wanted to talk to you about was this movie. I was like, I can't wait to see what Waltzing with Brando is going to be about. We talked about kind of the production of it and things of that nature. Now people are finally getting to see it. How does it kind of make you feel that it's out there?
Finally it's out there. You know, with every independent film, you never know. Like, at first when I signed on to do the movie, it was like during COVID, and so like, wow, is this movie ever going to happen now? Every single independent film, you never know. It's like, are they going to get the funding? Are they going to get all their ducks lined in a row? And then after you make it, you're like, okay, the people are like, when's it coming out? I was like, I don't know. It's going to come out at some point. Hopefully it could take, sometimes it takes years, sometimes it takes a few months. And so it's finally here. I'm glad. So I'm very excited for people to see it.
Well, you know what? And I mean this honestly. I got to talk to Billy about the movie, and after seeing it, it's one of my favorite films of the year. Just how the story, because, I think Brando he's got some weird mystique about him where people think of him in a certain perspective. And this really opens it up to the kind of fun that Marlon Brando had with the practical jokes and the interplay between him and Bernard in the movie. It just kind of, I don't know, it shines a light on a different aspect of who I thought this guy was.
Yeah, you kind of have, what I kind of dug about is like, here's an actor who's played some of the most dramatic roles, and he probably had real drama in his life. He had his house in LA, and there's probably, drama and things going on in his life. But this was like a chance to see from the point of view of kind of an everyman, my character, Bernard, seeing this guy like in his comfort zone. Here he is, and not just comfort zone, his playground, Tahiti. He bought this island because he fell in love with the culture, the people, this country. And he goes and buys this island, and it's just, whenever he was in Tahiti, he's kind of just, I don't want to think about the stress of work. I don't want to think about my jobs. I don't want to think about being an actor. I just want to be me and lay back and sip Mai Tais and hang out, and really it was kind of his way. And so you get a much more looser version of what we know as Brando, played by Billy Zane, who does an incredible job. But, he's walking around the film either half naked or in a sarong, or, just kind of doing whatever he wants, because he's like, this is my place. But he's like, I need to make this playground real. I need to make it design it the way I want it to be. And that's where my character comes in. He's like, I need you to help me realize this. And which is a total job for Bernard. Brando was extremely smart, but still he was kind of like, I'm going to let you take the reins. I need someone who knows what they're doing. So Bernard, my character has to come in and wants to have fun, but also I got to get this impossible task done.
But what's fun about the interplay between Brando and Bernard is there are times where Bernard thinks that he is absolutely insane for trying to do the things that he wants to do. But
Yeah.
then we'll see these little spots to where maybe it's actually a possibility, and Bernard's mind kind of opens up to maybe I can make this Xanadu, and it becomes just as much of a passion for Bernard as it does for Brando, and this beautiful friendship is formed.
Yeah, 100%. He is like at first kind of like, all right, yeah, I'm paid to do these kinds of jobs where I have to make the uninhabitable habitable. But yeah, Brando's throws him all kinds of, curveballs and like, wait, are you serious? And at first he's like, I can't tell if this guy's serious. And then he kind of just starts like going for it and just like, you know what? He may be serious or not, but yeah, he starts just buying into it and like, let's do this. And he takes the reins and you're almost by the end, you're like, Bernardo, are you okay? Like, do you really know what you're doing?
But what I also love is there's a scene where Bernard's character, what obviously played so great by you. I really loved you in this movie. And Billy's been obviously very complimentary of you as a dramatic actor in this, but there's a great comedic moment to where Bernard wants to get back at Billy for all kind of the hijinks and the pranks, and he finally figures out I'm going to really get him back in this one, and has the whole scene that you have about telling the story and trying to scare him or what have
Yeah.
you, only for Brando to still have the one up on
Yeah.
Bernard at the end
Yeah.
of it. That seemed to be, though, a real fun scene to play.
It was, and actually in real life, almost every scene and every moment is taken straight from the book, and that Bernard said happened, and that really was real. He loved to prank, and he wanted to get him back, and he knew. I don't know how apparent it was, but it was like a known fact that Brando was very superstitious and very scared of ghosts and things like that. So he tells that story. I think in real life, though, after he tells it, Brando legitimately was scared and freaked out. And, in the movie, we turn it around pretty quickly, like he pranks him back. But in real life, I think he was pretty shook by that experience.
When you're there with Billy, I think that when you do a biopic, especially somebody as recognizable as Brando, you have like the inclination to do impression, and it's really easy to fall into impression and what somebody thinks of this guy. I think, when someone does, for instance, a Seinfeld impression, it doesn't really sound like Seinfeld, but it sounds like what you think he sounds like.
Yeah, yeah.
In this one, though, I don't think Billy does as much impression as it's like the essence of Brando and kind of more of a vibe than it is a one-to-one exactly sounding just alike, if you understand what I'm saying. Did you feel
well,
that on set?
because he was, there are certain scenes for sure that, we portray in the film that are straight from The Godfather or some of his famous scenes. And so, yeah, I think he's doing a straight up impression and kind of copying. But then, most of the rest of the movie is taken from undocumented moments in his life that really was, at least wasn't film documented. There's pictures that we have from Bernard's book and things like that, but it's all mostly at the word of Bernard saying, yeah, Brando said this, Brando said that. So I thought Billy did an incredible job of portraying and kind of, playing this character. There's an element of impression, doing an impression of him, but for the most part, you're right. He's getting the vibe and he's playing with like, I think this is how he was. And it captures the book pretty well.
Well, and also, my favorite Tarantino film is Once Upon a Time. And what I loved about Once Upon a Time is it felt like you were just hanging out with these characters. It wasn't so much 100% plot driven, although it had its elements in it, but it was just a hang. It was a fun hang. And that's what this movie feels like in a similar sense of like just seeing Brando and Bernard hang out, bond through this, singular project that they're working on, but it's more so hanging out with buddies and just kind of being the fly on the wall.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what I liked about it. It's a buddy film. You have like two polar opposites kind of coming from different worlds and learning to work and live together and become one. It's funny because it takes place the exact same time as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where it's like 19, it's like it spans from about like late 60s to the mid 70s. Um, but yeah, it was it's what you like about this kind of films. I mean, Billy and I had a working relationship beforehand. We had worked actually on another film just prior, but it was for a short time. And so being able to now like, okay, this is Island Billy. This is Island Billy portraying Island Brando. He's more relaxed, it's laid back, and that's what it was. It was like we got to hang out and play in Tahiti, and just like our characters, when we wouldn't be shooting, we'd go and we'd swim with the sharks for real.
I mean, that it just had to be so much fun. Like I'll end on this, and again, thank you so much for taking the time. But Billy has made a lot about you as an actor in this role. He felt like this was something that really you sunk your teeth into from a dramatic side, and there are a lot of great dramatic scenes. Is that something that you want to continue to formulate, and what is that connectivity from comedy to drama that works so well when a comedic actor takes on a more dramatic part?
Um, I just look, at each role and just think,
Sure.
can I do this? Will this be fun? Do I like this character? Can I portray it? And that's really kind of, I don't have like,
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Granger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. All so that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRANGER, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Trying to lose weight? It's time to try Hers. At forhers.com/4u, you can access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss treatments tailored just for you. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full upfront. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
A quota I'm trying to meet where I'm like, well, I got to do a comedy, then a drama, then a horror, then I got to go back and do this. I think every drama is a comedy to me in that, you're putting real people in sometimes crazy situations. And, it's just how much stress and horror, how serious we take those moments that will either make it a comedy or make it a drama. But I mean, sometimes my favorite comedies are essentially just dramas with less stress.
That's a really interesting way to put it. Well, you know what? This movie, even though it had stressful moments for Bernard, for sure, it was a fun hang to be able to watch and just like, again, be on fly on the wall for it. It's one of my favorite of the year. So congrats on the film and thanks so much, man, for taking the time. Good to talk to you again.
Of course. Thank you.
Well, joining me right now, you've seen this actress in so many projects over the years. She's incredible talent, incredible singer, and she's bringing it to us again with the new film, Waltzing with Brando. Tia, thank you so much for joining the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Brad.
Well, look, I want to jump right into this movie because, and I mean this honestly, I've gotten to talk to Billy, I've gotten to talk to John. This is one of my favorite movies of the entire year. I just loved being able to vibe with this film. Now it's coming out. The people can see it now. How do you feel about it finally getting out there to the public?
I'm so excited because you do these little movies and you hope that it does well. You hope that it gets a theatrical release. To see it on the big screen and to see the beauty of Tahiti and all of our great work, I couldn't be more pleased. We have a big screening on Monday at the Man Chinese here in Los Angeles, the historic theater where they have the hands and footprints in front. So it's great to have Billy up on the big screen at the big historic theater, and I've seen my big mug in one really funny scene. So I'm very excited. I love this scene.
Yeah, the scene is great, and I want to talk about obviously Madame Leroy and everything that you did in this movie. But Tahiti itself, what a beautiful backdrop for this film. And I
Yeah.
think, I mean, obviously getting to shoot there made it even more impactful and brought that authenticity. Talk to me about Tahiti.
Um, it's like another character in the film. You can't double any place else for Tahiti. It's pristine. The air is sultry. It's, just the heaviness of the air. As soon as you get off the plane, it's like you're in an oven, but like a moist, sensual oven. I mean, Tahiti's gorgeous. I want to go back there. You don't even understand how beautiful it is. And that was just Papeete. And they got to go to, Tetiaroa and Moorea, which is even further flung. It was a gift getting to be there.
Yeah, it is like another character in the movie. It really is, and you
Hmm.
feel the essence of the film. And you know what? I think that
Hmm.
what's so great about this movie is that one of my favorite Quentin Tarantino films is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and this reminds me
Mm.
of that in the sense of similar time period, but also you feel like you're hanging out with all the characters, and you're just a fly on the wall in these few years of trying to build this incredible Xanadu that Brando is trying to do, and it feels like a fun hangout movie at times.
Yeah, and it's what's interesting. I As well versed as I am in Hollywood history, I didn't know most of this stuff. We all knew that Brando, declined his Academy Award and sent Sachin up there to shine a light on Native American, issues. But he was the first ecologically minded, a person in the Western world, and he was so visionary, making sure that there was water and that it was clean, and that that the first eco lodge, and now it's a huge business, multi-billion-dollar business, and he was the first guy, and everybody thought he was a crackpot. So I loved learning about that and about how he was trying to figure out clean water sources, which is nudge, nudge, wink, wink. We know the scene. And to see what he went through at the same time as The Godfather, and it. I think people, film cineasts, people that love film will want to watch this movie just for that, to understand more about the man and the myth and that timeline. It was fun hanging out in this era.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Because I think I had this, preconception of who Marlon Brando was because he's such a great
Mhm.
dramatic actor, and you think of him in The Godfather and Superman, and you think about the Academy Award moment, but you don't realize that he was kind of just a fun guy at times. He was just fun, and Billy brings the fun
That
out
love
in him.
beautiful women.
Well, yes, yes,
That love
absolutely.
beautiful island women.
Yes. Well, he had just such a fun essence about him, and I think that that's what Billy brought more than anything is just figuring out who this guy was from a completely different perspective than I think
Hmm.
anybody's ever talked about him in.
Hmm. Yeah, the charm and the wink in his eyes. I mean, I got to work with Brando on a little movie up in Montreal many years ago, and he was a character. He was a kind of troublemaker, had a funny sense of humor to him. So I love seeing that part of him in this film through Billy.
Well, talk about your relationship with Billy. Had y'all worked together prior to this movie? How well did y'all know one another?
I've known him for, oh gosh, I don't know, 20, is it 30 years? Yeah, probably 30 years. But I mean, we're both like actors that always, we did our stuff. We just kept working, and we'd see each other at parties, and we knew each other socially and stuff like that. But we had never worked together until this. And even now, I still haven't worked with him because I worked with John Heder in my scene.
Right,
So
right.
one of these days, I'll work with Billy.
But John also,
Yeah.
I feel like, is so good in this movie. This is maybe his best
Yes.
performance in several years. And not saying that he hasn't done great work, but this one, he really brings it as Bernard. And it's so fun to watch his character kind of try to maneuver his way through the island of Tahiti.
Well, and also it's so wacky and zany, all the stuff this poor guy had to deal with. And it's true. It was like if you think about how wild and untouched Tahiti is now, think about when these guys were doing their building. He didn't know when he got off the plane who he was dealing with. I mean, who's who? Is it true what they're saying? Is it, how do I buy this land? And it was the wild, wild west.
Yeah, it was. And even his first interaction with Brando, he wasn't sure what kind of guy he was dealing with because Brando was kind of a prankster. So it's interesting to say that when you worked with him, you kind of picked up on that sense of he was a little
Yeah.
bit of a troublemaker, like to have some fun. Were you intimidated to be around him?
Oh, certainly. I mean, this was
Yeah.
towards his later years,
Yeah.
and so he was very large and
Hmm.
unhealthy at that point, which was sad. But I came on set, and we're supposed to do like a one-page scene. I'm just an insurance adjuster trying to give him his check, but he didn't give me the paperwork that he was supposed to give me. And so we had this whole conversation. Like he goes, are you an island girl? You look like an exotic. Are you from Tahiti? Are you from? I was like, what's going on here? I'm looking on the other side to like at the director, like, okay, I'll just stay improvising with him and see if it comes back around to the dialogue on the scene that I memorized. So we had this like whole meandering, I don't know, 15-minute scene about what island I'm from and that his kids and his family and just so it got cut from the film, but I had a blast. We
You know,
never got to the part where I give him the check. He snatches the check out of my hand and he sticks it in his shirt. He goes, "Now I have it. How are you going to get it back?" I'm like, I don't know what to do.
well, his
Yeah,
unpredictability is another part of his charm, right? Is you never know what you're
yeah.
going to get from him, and you see that in this movie. Okay, let me ask you this: more intimidating to work with Brando or Connery?
Brando definitely because he's so well also because Sean Connery, I got to be at a big table read
Sure.
with everybody, Harvey Keitel, Steve Buscemi, the Oscar nominated director, all these amazing people, big room. Sean Connery, everybody's laughing, talking. The doors open, double doors open on the conference room. In walks Sean Connery and looks around, and a hush falls over the room. And then he says something funny, and everybody starts laughing, and then we carried on. But it was, that kind of broke the ice. I think he knows, Sean Connery knew when he walked into a room that he comes in with that legend energy, and he has to just poke a hole in it to release the tension. So
Oh,
he was very, very nice.
yeah,
I loved
beautiful.
working with him.
I'm sure. I'm sure you
Yeah.
got to work with
Yeah,
so
the
many
late
legends.
great Sean Connery.
There he is.
Ooh.
There he is, right there. Madam
Yeah.
Leroy, talk about this scene.
Yeah.
So when you read this script and they send it to you, it comes to you however it does, and you read it, do you go immediately like, oh, I'm all the way in. I want to do this so bad.
Oh yeah. With this one, definitely. And I also came up with some other bits, that certain word that I say in the scene. I added that in like the mispronunciation because I was reading it out loud, memorizing the lines, and that pronunciation came out. And I started laughing because I thought it was hilarious. And and I said to the director, to Bill Fishman, I said, hey, is it okay if I riff on this? And Bobby goes, yeah, yeah, sure. And so I just go with it. And I was cracking myself up. And I love that everybody loves it too, because it was just one of those serendipitous moments where you stumble upon something and it becomes comedy gold.
Well, and it's got to be freeing as an actress to have a director who just allows that freedom, especially in a film like this where you can just kind of riff and have fun and see where it
Yeah.
goes.
It made it much more naturalistic, and I'm sure Billy and John did the same thing. Sometimes words, written on a page, when you say them, it doesn't feel real coming out of your mouth. So it's great that Bill's open to that sort of reinterpretation in your own voice. So I love that he was open to collaboration because it's basically a one standalone scene. It could
Right.
be just drop it off. Here's the funny, and then you continue on with the story. So he was willing to go with it a little further than it even started out as. We made it crazy, and then I love that when I walked into the house, you see I walk in front of some horns, and that was quite by accident. He's framing up the shot, and I walk in and I stand at this place, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. Oh yeah, perfect, right there." And then he goes, "Wait till you see this." So like my accent with that word, and then this, the horns coming up, it's hilarious.
I'm sure you can't wait to see that at the Chinese theater,
Yeah,
like with a whole
yeah,
crowd, because it's
yeah,
one of the memorable moments, standout parts of the film, obviously, for
yeah,
and people will see it when they see it and understand
yeah.
why.
Come on out, Brad. Come to LA. It's
Well, you
gonna
know
be
what? If I can come with
historic.
you, I'll be there. Um,
Yes, I can get you
we
on the list. There we go.
okay,
We'll all
thank
sit in the
you.
same row.
Okay, I
Let me
love
know.
it. Now, you've just had such an incredible year. I mean, $1 billion with Lilo and Stitch. Um,
Crazy in like a month, in
in
a
a
billion
month.
dollars in like a month. That's how fast people went to it again and again and again because we're so hungry for joy. We're so hungry for connection and family and good vibes and nostalgia. Because I did the original cartoon
Of
23
course.
years ago. So people want to fill their hearts. It's such a difficult and scary and sad and divisive time, no matter what side of the aisle you're on.
Sure.
And I feel like we just need to pull together and just hug each other and love each other through anything that comes up, but maybe it's Pollyanna-ish of me, but that's the way I see it.
Well, no, I think that you're right, and I think Lilo and Stitch does that. I think that Brando, this movie does that too, because you fall in love with this man and just the way that he
Yeah.
thinks and the way that he acts and like you said, the scenery that you're chewing on is beautiful. Lilo and
Mm.
Stitch was a beautiful movie, and also just putting Hawaiian culture, Polynesian culture,
Hmm.
showing Tahiti. It feels like it's become more mainstream than ever before, especially with Moana and what Dwayne The Rock and they're doing with the live action version. It just seems to be like
Yeah.
mainstream story now.
Yeah, I love that we're bringing like the Aloha spirit, the Tahitian Yaurana, to the world because it's good vibes. There's a reason why people dream of paradise and they see Hawaii or Tahiti in their mind's eye. And I am so fortunate, so blessed, so happy that I got to go to the Philippines, like Cebu, the island, Hawaii and Tahiti in the past, couple years working on these movies. I just have to pinch myself and go, how did I get so lucky? 41 years later in the business.
It's still
It's
going from that
crazy.
grocery store in Hawaii to all the way here now, still working. And you know what?
Yeah.
The Last Resort I know is coming out, I think sometime next year, I believe is the name of the movie.
Yeah,
Um,
The Last Resort with Daisy Ridley and
yeah,
Alden Ehrenreich. It's going to be great. It's a rom-com, and I get to play another, eccentric character. I love playing these eccentric characters. It's fun,
it's
the
it's
crazy aunt, the crazy mom, the whatever.
now I will say this, and you've been generous with your time. Waltzing with Brando is a phenomenal film, but I got to end on this. When is it going to happen? When are we going to do it? Or can we write it together? I want a Relic Hunter reboot. I want this show to come back so much. I loved this show. It's
Thank
actually it's a
you.
guilty, not even a guilty pleasure. It's a pleasure of mine. It's one of the shows that I put on when I'm feeling down and I just want to pick me up. If I just want to watch it and binge it, you and Sydney Fox and Nigel and all the adventures love this show, and I feel like it's a prime time for Sydney to come back. She's got a gang of younger relic hunters with
Yep.
her. And
Yep.
why don't we make this happen? We should make this happen. I love this show.
I know. Yeah, I think so too. I can reach out to the producers in Germany and France. I really agree. I think they tried to do it with that show Librarians, but it was
Mhm.
not. This had a joy to it, and the
Yes.
comic banter between Nigel and I think's hilarious. And we could also jump in and do a relic hunt or two, just for old time's sake. And it's like, oh, my back. Oh, I think I stubbed my toe, or I don't know, whatever, I don't know, by bursitis or whatever the hell. We'll just make these funny jokes about all these things that are falling apart on us. Like, don't you remember, Sydney, when we used to do that? I'm like, yeah, I'm too tired.
It would be great, but I feel like it's
It'd be
prime.
great.
There's a lot of story that could be told with Sydney Fox in 2025, 2026. I would love to see it. But you know what?
That's a good idea.
You've been doing so much great work. I know you're going to continue to do it. This movie is added to the great pantheon of your career, and it's really one of my favorite films of the year. So thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you so much. My next step is writing, directing, and producing this movie that I'm going to star in Hawaii. It's a little small indie dramatic piece, and it's about time. I've been doing this a long time, speaking other people's words and telling other people's stories. And this is an important story for me in Hawaii.
What
And
is the
like
story about?
it's like the economic divide. It's like people that are just falling off the bottom of society in Hawaii and becoming homeless. It's not the feel good story of the century, but it does turn around. It's a really good script. So I'm looking for financing out there. So tell everybody wherever it is,
Yeah,
I'll have
we'll
to
have to
put up
spread the
something.
word. Yeah,
There we go.
I think that would be amazing. Well, Tia, again,
Yeah.
thank you. Great to speak to you as always, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Aloha and yaurana.
Thanks so much, Tia. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. And really,
Bye.
have a good one.
You too. Bye,
All right.
Brad.
Bye bye. All right. Joining me right now is a man who I've been a fan of for a very long time. I've followed his career throughout several projects. He actually holds the distinction of being in two of my 10 favorite films of all time, two of them on my top 10 list. And you know what? I think he just added another one to it with Waltzing with Brando. He is the one and only Billy Zane. Billy, thank you so much for taking the time.
Brad, thank you so much. What a pleasure. What were those two? If I can, let me try to guess.
Go for it.
Demon Knight?
Demon Knight isn't there. No.
No. Wow,
No.
interesting. Hold on. The Phantom?
The Phantom is one. Yes, of course.
And could be Zoolander, could be Titanic. I can't quite tell.
Zoolander's on there. You know what? Zoolander is on there. So is Back to the Future, which you're in as well. So
oh my God. All right.
I
So
like
what were your two? What were your two
It was
without
Back to the Future and the Phantom.
without my prompting? Those are fine films.
Yes. You know what? I actually got to talk to Simon Windsor, who directed The Phantom one time, and he said it was a lovely experience, a beautiful film, beautiful scenery that y'all got to shoot in. And he said you were always offset, getting ready and getting all pumped up before you had to be on camera. Do you remember that?
I do, because I didn't want to wear a muscle suit. And boy, there was times I regretted that because I realized, it was a very unforgiving costume, nothing quite to it. Kind of was about that big on a hanger, and I went, oh, nuts. I thought a naturalist hero, he needs to have Tarzan muscle, no rubber or armor. That was tough.
But you know what? That movie was so great, and your scenes with Treat Williams are literally a treat to watch. The interplay between the two of you. He was so charismatic and off the page in that movie. It was phenomenal.
He was masterful, on stage and screen. One of my favorite actors, rest his soul. Just beautiful man.
Beautiful man.
Real pleasure working with him.
It's interesting to even bring up the Phantom because I think it kind of gets right into Waltzing with Brando because the Phantom literally in the comic book pages had a duality about him, Kit Walker, and then this protector of a jungle. And when I was watching Waltzing with Brando last night, love the movie, by the way. There's such a duality to Brando that I didn't, I think, recognize before. He is this serious, great craftsman of an actor, but also completely silly at times, a practical joker, a conservationist, an environmentalist, a civil rights activist. There's a duality in this guy.
Wow, you're pretty good at this. You should host a show. My goodness, what a great distillation. No, he was certainly full of complexities and contradictions. And what we really wanted to do was kind of reclaim the legacy from the trauma that befell him at the end of his life and really shine a light on where he was just the tip of the spear of activism. There were no Hollywood activists at the time. The man really walked the walk for civil rights, indigenous rights, and the little known fact that he championed environmental rights as early as 1969. That wasn't really a thing, incredible and a very a kind of an entertaining and fun telling of his relationship with his architect while they're trying to figure out how to, it's like these interesting buddies trying to figure out how to bring power and water to his island without fossil fuels at the time, which was kind of unheard of. It was pretty wild.
Well,
early solar and
yeah, and an innovator, and just the idea of his throwing ideas out there of like, hey, let's electric eels. Let's see what can we do with electric eels. And I love the moment in the film where there's the eels in the pond, and then you see the light start to flicker, and John Heder's character almost looks off like, did he figure this out? Did Brando really figure it out? But with movies like this, when you portray such a well-known figure, I go back to Joaquin Phoenix as Johnny Cash, or even recently Austin Butler as Elvis. You can go to
Jamie is, that's the bar right there, man.
Yeah, Jamie is Ray.
That Ray was killer, right? They were all of those performances were stellar.
But even like Michelle Williams, when she took on Marilyn Monroe, some of these are less about impression and more about essence. I felt like they all embodied an essence of the person, not trying to do a one-to-one impression, because Brando has such a unique and distinct way of speaking and carrying himself, maybe one of the most impressioned individuals of his era. I'm sure that it was sometimes difficult to not want to slip into that impression, but I felt like you really embodied an essence of him.
Thank you. That was the objective, really. There's lots of people do great impressions of him, and that was the last thing I really wanted to do. And it just seemed more organic to connect with the similarities we shared as an on-ramp in terms of process. I don't really think he was that much of a method actor. I think he really liked improvisation, and I think he liked being blindsided and kept off balance and certainly not knowing his lines, which I can relate to in some ways. I kind of like being a little loose, on those two, much to the chagrin of some of my co-stars, I imagine. However, sorry. However, uh, it was to approach him. I had to approach him as if and ask the question: is how would Marlon do this? And that was to not. I don't think he'd give a heck. You know what I mean? It was such an important undertaking that I had to resist the reverence and the otherness of simply worshiping at the temple of Brando, as every actor does. I had to just do away with all that and just be the guy and flow the way he does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and that came across, and even to me, one of the beautiful things about this portrayal of Brando, and again, I found myself when I was watching this movie, I found myself just wanting to be in his presence. It was a fun movie to watch. Whereas some of these, biopics, and look, sometimes they have to tell the whole story of an individual, and that goes through dark and tumultuous times. But what I loved about this film, it was actually an enjoyable experience to just sit there and watch him in his, Tahiti mansion and embodying the essence of that island, and even seeing the poetry of the person when he says to John Heder's character, when you say something to the effect of the island is to kiss the lips of God, or something along those lines. The poetry of the person. I just found out that I wanted to hang out with him. I'm sure that you wanted to hang out with this.
I did indeed. That was, it's my favorite takeaway from people who see the film is, as a producer of the project, I really wanted to, provide, and we collectively wanted to make an offering that really differentiates from a lot of movies, which inevitably are filled with levels of trauma or vengeance or familiar tropes and structures, right? In any genre. This one just floats along in such a refreshing way. It's almost like a relief. We want people to go back to the cinema. September 19th, by the way, when we open, please do go see it in cinema because the cinematography is lovely. We shot in Tahiti, on his island, on Morea and Papeete. And it's really, like you say, it's like you go on vacation with this really funny, slightly dysfunctional and quite functional family of friends and coworkers, and you feel like you went on holiday. And that's really what we wanted to do, was create an oasis of sorts, or a vacation, cinema as a retreat for a minute, just to kind of just drop the shoulders and ease the mind and learn stuff you couldn't imagine went down, while serving up these incredibly familiar kind of sacred spaces, like scenes from The Godfather, scenes from Last Tango, interviews with Johnny Carson and Cavett that we've meticulously and painstakingly recreated in order to earn this complete departure into seeing the man in his absolutely most relaxed and humorous and joyful self.
Yeah, I love the intersex of Dick Cavett, how the movie starts off, and Johnny Carson. I mean, and it's even great to have that Johnny Carson footage. Some of his early 60s footage was erased and lost, but that Brando interview lives on YouTube, and I've seen it several times as a big admirer of Johnny. And I wanted to ask you this: the relationship that you and John have, or your characters have in the film, is a unique relationship that an artist and an architect have with each other. This bond to try to bring a vision to life. And John, I actually got to spend some time with about a year ago. We were backstage at an event, and all I wanted to ask him about was this movie. We weren't talking about Napoleon Dynamite. We're actually talking about Waltzing with Brando and The Phantom, of all things.
Amazing.
But there's a particular scene where John Heder's character is trying to get over on Marlon Brando and play a practical joke on him.
Mm-hmm.
And then it seems as though he gets him, but Brando's always a step ahead. And it's kind of a beautiful metaphor to what he was throughout the movie, is always kind of a step ahead of not just his friends and playing practical jokes, but trying to innovate in islands and like you said, trying to figure out how to power things without water. Did you find him to be an innovator when you were kind of researching and always a step ahead of people?
He was, certainly mercurial, a trickster, a practical joker. Like,
Yeah.
and his family, who really loved the film, recognized that, oh my God, no one's really seen that side of Daddy. Is the message we get. That was him, and that was, very reassuring and emboldening. What blew me away was we shared a similar love of the sciences and leveraging the curious access celebrity affords to either heads of state and captains of industry, but really to scientists who might have unique solutions to problems. And that was just a thing I dug doing, and would bring white paper to the UN and slide some answers through. It was just, an interesting way to kind of apply. And then when I learned that he was, speed dialing folks at NASA, I work with some folks at JPL. I live in Pasadena, worked with some guys at Caltech. It's my happy place, oddly. I just really like being with engineers and being the artist at the table. I had no idea this was part of his MO. And I thought, okay, we're on the right path here at least. And some of his discoveries, what he spearheaded, is being used today on the island. I mean, he achieves his dream in such a unique way, where the Brando itself is this kind of living lab where they invite other people to come and study the processes of something called SWAC, saltwater air conditioning, which he coined, bringing cold water off of a reef through PVC pipes up to villas and workers housing, without using a diesel engine. No one's ever done that. Attribute that to Marlon Brando. It's crazy. The fact that they do high-speed composting, that they have no plastic on the island, and they turn glass bottles back into sand from which it came to reshore the tidal erosion on the beaches. It's like the most insane and brilliant closed loop process that we should all be following. I mean, it's really quite brilliant how they find the balance there and honor the place. And the film fundamentally is a love letter to Tahiti, to the people of Tahiti, and really to Marlon Brando, and to reclaim this incredible legacy for stuff he's really not known for.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I loved about the film, is I kind of felt like I learned more about who he was as a person, not so much the caricature that we know as Jor-El or Vito Corleone or what have you, what many people associate with him. There's a particular moment in the film I wanted to ask what your take was it when you read it in the script, was when there's the bee, and he takes the bee off and puts it on his tongue, and the little girl thinks that he's eating the bee or what have you, and then it floats away. And that was the whole scene. What did that mean to you about Brando? What do you think it says about him?
That stemmed from two stories. So a lot of this, we ended up doing a lot of research with some of his assistants and his family while we were developing the script further. Bill Fishman, the writer-director, did a tremendous job adapting a fairly sterile account based on the memoirs by Bernard Judge, who John Heder plays, and turning it into a very appealing, almost comedic buddy picture. And then we started going deeper into the stories through the research, and found that was a combination of two stories. One that happened in a pool with a bee that he put on his tongue. And the line that I say, "They're hard workers," comes from a friend of mine, actress Leslie Bega, who grew up with his daughter Cheyenne, and had witnessed a line of ants crawling over his foot and continuing. And she said to him, "Marlon, there's ants on your feet. There's ants on your feet." And he didn't want to move his foot. He said, "Well, they're hard workers. Like, who am I to interrupt their flow?" That was just like that. I said, we have to put that in the movie. And that little girl was actually my daughter, Ava Zane, who plays Sabrina, John's daughter, which was Bill's idea, not mine, to put her in. So I was very grateful for that suggestion, and she did a tremendous job.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful moment and a beautiful scene. And what you just explained there to me is also comes through with what Brando says. Even when he's talking about acting, he's like, "I'm a craftsman. I'm no different than anybody else. This is a job." Everyone, it almost looks like in his mind, in the ecosystem, in the world, in Hollywood, wherever it might be. Everybody has their job to do. And I'm not bigger than any other act of nature or act of any other craft or what have you. That definitely came through in the movie as well, which I absolutely loved. And to me too, John does such a wonderful job in this movie. And I
Isn't he
know he's
great?
known for Blades of Glory, he's known for Napoleon Dynamite, but there's something sometimes about a comic when they come into a work that has a little bit more drama into it, that they know how to play that drama almost sometimes better than your traditional dramatic actor.
I agree completely. I think comedians make some of my do some of my favorite work, and in drama, or like you have to understand levels of tragedy to find true humor. I think Jim Carrey finds it.
Yes.
Kristen Wiig is one of my favorite actresses, dramatic
good.
or otherwise. Like, what an improvisational genius! Anyone who's that quick and on it. Is just Bill Hader, like you look at these performances and you just go, they do great work. And John found such nuance and a great onboard. I really loved working with him. We had such a great dynamic. And we mind, something that really happens in a funny kind of working relationship, not with the actors, but in the characters, where it's like that blur between, all right, you're my employer, you're my friend, you're my employer, how fickle that place can be.
Yeah.
And how, the proximity of genius, sometimes you fancy, I'm the Brando of architecture, he probably thought, got way over his skis, completely ate it, and these are these very subtle and human foibles that come with mixing those extremes in a cocktail and giving it the space to blend and percolate and overpower it. That was really what was a lot of fun to explore, and not just push plot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, drive a movie on character, an objective. We have a very clear objective.
Sure.
There is a hurdle or threat, and time and money being it. But the rest was just to kind of luxuriate in the human condition and how it manages, which is somehow, I think, more familiar to all of our stories, because we're not all, cracking codes and saving, well, maybe you're saving the world in this movie in a slow motion, process. It's certainly not red wire, green wire, but, although today we're kind of at that level. The fact that he had the foresight to realize the ticking bomb of climate change back then, and how it really faced those atolls. They were the front lines of rising sea levels. And, I marvel at his foresight.
And what you just said, and I want to be respectful of your time, so just a couple more questions if you don't mind. But what you just said in this movie, yes, there's obviously objective, there's obviously plot, there's obviously things to set up and further the scenes. But there was a movie that popped in my head when I was watching it, which was one of my favorites, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Quentin Tarantino.
It's
what
great.
I love about that movie is it's not so much about plot as it is living with these characters over this 3-day period. And in your case, several year period in this movie, but just it being around them. It's almost a hang in a way. And that definitely comes through in this movie. Tahiti is such an incredible character in the film too. But when we talk, you mentioned Jim Carrey. One of my favorite Jim Carrey movies, one of his great performances, is when he portrayed Andy Kaufman in Man on the Moon.
Incredible.
Incredible. And the documentary about that movie is also equally incredible.
Agreed.
He's talking to Andy Kaufman's daughter as Andy Kaufman and bringing some sort of peace to her soul with her father. But let me ask you this. Do you feel that after rapping on this and being so intimately intertwined with Brando, that there is now a spirit or a bit of his essence that's kind of embedded into you in a similar way that Jim had with Andy?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nice jacket to wear. You know what I mean? That's comfortable leather. I don't want to give it back.
Yes, I can see it too. My final thing, and again, this movie is phenomenal. I really do appreciate your time. One of my favorite movies I've seen this entire year, and I'm not just saying that. I really enjoyed the film so much.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
If I can go back to Back to the Future for one moment with you.
Yes,
Just
you
one
can
moment.
go back.
Can we go back 40 years ago? Famously, that movie originally starred Eric Stoltz and then was reshot with Michael J. Fox. But that was a huge film, the biggest movie of that year. Young in your career, what did that movie mean to you to be on that set and around those people and to experience the Hollywood system of changing a lead and reshooting and doing all that craziness?
Brad, I'm so glad you asked that. You know, I came to Hollywood I had a family of actors. My parents were on stage. My sister's an actress, Lisa, singer-songwriter as well, and actually scored a movie I directed, which is coming out after this, called Interior Hallway Night. Look for that. I think you're going to like that too. But I wanted to be a filmmaker growing up, and I was crewing on commercials when I was 16, and I wanted to go to film school, but it was in my DNA being an actor. It was part of my, it was a go-to. It was easy, and it was there, genetically or what have you, what I was exposed to in terms of the theater arts. And there weren't a lot of young filmmakers at that time. It was a guild system back in the 80s when I started. So being an actor made sense to start because it was such a big teen movement, a lot of teen movies, and that was where I could probably get to the ground zero between camera and director and really observe and learn there, as opposed to the mailroom or hauling stuff like delivering editing machines like I was in Chicago. So I entered as an actor, luckily got this job after 2 weeks of being in Hollywood, which was insane, and worked for over 6 months because we got to do it twice. I got a do-over, and I got to work with the great Eric Stoltz, which I had the privilege of doing again in Memphis Belle, an awesome actor, and got to work with him, and then got to work with Michael J. and that rest of that incredible cast. But it was being on set at Universal Studios every day, driving on lot in a completely immersive 1950s set, which to me was synonymous with cinema, like historic, nostalgic, and running around during all the breaks, terrorizing the tour buses and cruising around to, it was a kid in a candy store, and all of us, we would just, that was the best film school you could ever ask for. It was an incredible. It was a baptism by fire, you know what I mean? Like you hit the ground running. And I found also observing on part 2 when we came back, watching Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis and Dean Cudney, like craft or explore and demonstrate these new tool sets like motion control robotic cameras. The first time that was being demonstrated for them. I'm sitting there watching. I'd go to set every time, even I wasn't filming, I'd show up, use my pass just to watch the making of all of it, to learn. And they were very generous about it. But it was a complete, educational experience with the masters of the craft.
With the masters of the craft. Well, I'm so glad that I asked that question, and I really appreciate you taking time today. I think that you're going to be in my city, Houston, soon, maybe for the movie. I would love to come and shake your hand if that's the case.
I will buy you a cocktail or beverage of choice, sir. It would be my pleasure, amigo.
It would be my honor. Mr. Zane, I really do appreciate it. Congratulations on the film. You were sensational in it. The film is sensational, and I hope the world goes and sees it.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Gilmore.